Welcome back. I want you to take a look at your screen. This is Quinton Simon. He's a 20-month-old kid who was never given a fair chance at life. On October 5th, 2022, he was seen for the last time before vanishing from his Georgia home. And it was a rough home. We're learning about that. It was overcrowded, filled with drugs and a lot of alleged abuse and custody disputes. And 2 years ago to this very day, October 18th of 2022, authorities began searching in a nearby landfill for his remains. At the time, they suspected that his mother may have killed him and discarded his body. And a month later, his remains were discovered, and the worst was confirmed, that someone had murdered this little boy while he was only 20 months old. Since then, his mother, Leilani, has been charged with his murder. And she's sitting in a courtroom day in, day out, facing 19 counts related to the killing and cover-up of her alleged heinous acts. Today, Leilani was back in court as the state attempts to convince this jury that she is guilty of what she's accused of. And we had a big witness who took the stand today. It's the regular babysitter of Quinton and some of Quinton's siblings. A woman who saw firsthand how Quinton was being treated in that home, Michelle McCarta. She described what she believed was a difference in the way that Leilani treated Quinton compared to her other son, Zane.
Quinton stayed a lot.
And why is that? Why would Quinton stay overnight?
Honestly, Quinton loved us. He was close to us. And I just felt like he would be better off at our house because there was a difference in the love she showed between Zane and Quinton, and I felt bad, and I would work, and my daughter would say, "Can we just get him, Mom, because this happened today?" And I would say, "Yeah, call her and ask her if he can stay." When she would, once in a while that she did come and pick them up, she would, grab Zane, and he would hug her because he was close to her. I mean, you could definitely tell it. And then, Quinton, 99% of the time, wanted to stay with us. And he would start crying. I didn't really talk to her that much, but she just said that she loved Quinton more. I mean, Zane more than Quinton. And, I didn't question it. She's a crappy mom. I knew that. But I just never said anything to her. I would always call Billy Joe when I seen things that was going on.
When I was in Savannah, Georgia, covering this case 2 years ago, I had a chance to actually go to Michelle McCarta's house when Quinton was still missing. The community was still looking for him, and you could tell how much she loved Quinton. She was steps away from Leilani Simon's house, and she always had her home open, her arms open to this little boy if Leilani had been struggling with her son. Still with us, let's bring back in the think tank. Former homicide prosecutor Bernardo Villalona is with us, Chief Public Defender Paulette Lofton, and trial attorney Ben Chu. Paulette, let me start with you. This is a challenging case. You heard the babysitter say that she was a crappy mom. We know that just being a crappy mom isn't enough for you to be found guilty of murder, but there is a lot of evidence. How strong of a witness do you think this is when she's able to say she treated her other son differently?
I think she came across very, very believable. It was very clear that she cared so much for both of those little boys. And I think she definitely had the most front row seat you could have, watching how those children were parented, how they would show up, the difference, the way Zane would appear in new clothes and clean, and the way the poor victim in this case would show up dirty with poopy diapers, not having been bathed, with dirty clothes. I mean, the way she described the difference in treatment has to stay in the jury's mind when they're deciding, could she have possibly done this? Could she have possibly hurt her own child and actually killed him? So I definitely think that the testimony that was provided by that babysitter is definitely going to make a big impact on the jury's decision.
This is a hard case for a defense attorney, Ben Chu. When you see the image of this little boy, the jury is going to want to hold someone responsible. If you're representing Leilani, how do you try to mitigate what is probably already this vile reaction from the jury to someone who was supposed to be responsible for his care?
I really don't know. I wish I did, but I agree with Paulette. I think the babysitter was extraordinarily credible because she didn't seem at all as if she had an axe to grind against Leilani for any other reason other than her horrible treatment of Quinton, and it absolutely makes the inconceivable, that is killing your own child, seem conceivable. And it's so unnecessary because you can tell that the babysitter would have taken Quinton if it came to that. I mean, why kill this poor little boy?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And you're right, because it's not something that people want to conceive. When this first happened, everyone was just looking, trying to help this mom find her child who may have wandered off, and then things really shifted. Bernardo, I want to actually show you a clip from another witness that we heard from. This was yesterday, and it's something rather unusual that we don't see a lot here on Court TV. It's a witness who took the stand, and on cross-examination, she testified that she had a seance with the victim. All this came into evidence in front of the judge and the jury without objection, as she described in detail a conversation she had with Quinton from beyond the grave.
So he was a 15-month-old ghost speaking to you. Please tell me about this. I would love to hear it.
Okay, so this is what I did, and I lit my candle, had my Bible out, and I prayed. I asked if I could reach out to Quinton Simon, and here he comes. Behold. Do I see him physically? No. But here he is, and he is Mama Mel. This is what I was always called by them. Mama Mel, help me. I said, with what? I said, help me help you. What happened? He said, Mommy hurt me. I asked him, how did he hurt you? Or how did she hurt you, sorry. And he told me, she hit me in the head really hard. I said, okay.
Bernardo, are you surprised that that was able to come in? And I will also point out that it was through Leilani's, we understand this was cross-examination, so it was Leilani Simon's attorney who was asking these questions.
Oh, yeah. So the defense wasn't going to stop her from testifying, from saying that, because he's going to use that in terms of her credibility, that she's not a person that is sane. She's not making any sense, that she says that she talks to the dead. So the defense attorney is going to discredit her by her own testimony, by this, what some people will say is pure nonsense.
Yeah, it was a difficult one, but she seems to have a very truly held belief to her in the way that she testified, and it came in without objection. Paulette, any final thoughts about this case as we move forward, and we know we're going to eventually get to the defense case? Do you think Leilani will have to testify? She seemed very animated there, even when this other friend is testifying.
She is another one who has had strange emotions throughout the trial. I sometimes feel like her emotions do not fit the testimony that she is hearing. So I think that is strange, and I think that's going to affect the jury. But I do think she would have to testify. She has to at least provide an explanation about what she remembers about that day, and maybe clear up any of the things that she could clear up from the babysitter's testimony. I think the jury would have a really hard time finding her not guilty if she didn't take the stand. Obviously, that's risky as a defense attorney to have your client take the stand. But in this type of case, I think the jury is going to want to hear from mom. You are a mom. You gave birth to this child. I want to know in your mind what happened, what you think happened, what you did that day. Because like we've all said, you don't want to believe that a mother would kill their own child. So I think the jury would have to hear from her to be even able to consider a not guilty verdict.
Yeah, the defense left it very broad in their opening statement. They didn't say if we would hear from her. They didn't even really give a defense. They don't have to put one on, but they kept it very high level, so we will see. To the think tank, thank you for joining us tonight, sharing your expertise. Bernarda Villalona, Paulette Lofton, and Ben Chu. We always appreciate having you on and just donating your time to us, so thank you. Have a good weekend. When we come back, we're going to reveal something else you need to know. Plus, here's a preview of what's coming up in the next hour. Tonight on Vinnie Politan Investigates, the murders of Abby Williams and Libby German, the two young girls brutally killed in the woods of Delphi, Indiana. Richard Allen has been charged, but did he confess to the crimes? We investigate.
Join Court TV's Vinnie Politan with the latest and breaking true crime stories.
Now, let's look at the other side of all of that.
Vinnie Politan Investigates. Coming up next, only on Court TV.
The trial of a wife who's accused of killing her husband and then burning his remains.
Defendant murdered and desecrated her own husband.
The Burn Pile Murder Trial. Live coverage weekday mornings, 8, 7 Central on Court TV.
Welcome back to Closing Arguments. It's now time for us to reveal something else you need to know tonight. Let's take a look at the board. You see it there. This Sunday, Court TV's brand new show, Interview with a Killer, is premiering at 8 p.m. Eastern. It's a true crime docuseries where award-winning journalist David Scott is going to take you inside of high-security prisons across the country and inside the minds of convicted murderers. Now, Sunday's premiere features Brian Stephen Smith, a husband-turned-serial killer who hunted and killed vulnerable women in Alaska. We covered that case here on Court TV. Here's a preview.
I've always suspected that some people aren't at all who they appear to be. To his wife, Brian Stephen Smith was a loving husband. To the Marriott hotel staff, he was a good colleague. To his mistress, he was a spinner of dark sexual fantasies. But to Kathleen Henry, an Alaska native living on the streets of Anchorage, Brian Stephen Smith was a stranger who offered a warm bed and then did something monstrous.
Good evening. We're learning more tonight about the weeks surrounding the hotel killing of 30-year-old Kathleen Henry.
39 photos and 12 videos show in graphic detail the final hours of a dark-haired woman. The SD card where the files were stored was labeled Homicide at Midtown Marriott.
She was like all beat up. I mean, her face was not even recognizable.
Brian Stephen Smith was found guilty in February 2024 of murder, sexual assault, and misconduct involving a corpse. How are we doing, guys?
We're set.
We're good? Okay. And now, for the first time, he has agreed to tell me his story and to answer for these crimes. Well, Brian, we're here because we really want to understand the mindset and motivations behind your actions in this case, okay? Tell me, why are you here today talking to us?
Because you asked me to.
You could have said no, but you agreed. Why?
Yes, yeah, but well, I have my side of the story as well that I'd like to get out.
You want to be heard?
Yes, I have to get something out.
And joining us here in the studio to talk about this new show is the host of that show, David Scott, with us, award-winning journalist for investigative reports across the country and the world. And now you're going behind these prison doors to talk to convicted killers. What was it like there, that encounter with Brian Stephen Smith?
Creepy, okay. and dark and fascinating, I'd say. You know, this is a man who by day is the dutiful husband, you know, on the straight and narrow. And when night falls, he gets into his black pickup truck and he literally trolls the streets of Anchorage looking for vulnerable prey outside of homeless shelters and liquor stores. And so the two murders that we know of have, you know, come to light and he's been convicted for. But we know that the South African authorities are looking at him. He's native South African. And there is a lot of sort of palpable fear and suspicion in the, particularly in the Alaska Native community, that there are more bodies there too. Yes.
Wow. This was one of those cases that it was horrific to even have to watch the trial in it. And this is not an interview. I've seen some of the previews I'll be watching on Sunday, but you don't just let him talk or give his story. You confront him with some of the evidence and don't let him get away with just saying that, oh, I'm not the one. Let's take a listen to a clip from that.
I don't like hurting people.
You don't?
No.
And And you're telling me now that what you told the police is false, that you did not murder Veronica Rabicek?
No. You must remember that interrogation was done under duress.
Well, all interrogations are arguably done under duress, but there was nothing unfair about it. And in fact, you could have stopped talking at any point. And instead, you volunteer a completely different story about an earlier crime.
I was in a weakened state of mind. It made sense to me there that I need to cover all my tracks. Alicia might have told them that story, and I don't tell them, and they think I'm lying.
You know, David, what I think is fascinating is that this defendant didn't even take the stand, so this is the time that we're able to actually hear from him. Tell me about, I know this one is airing on Sunday, but what is actually coming up in future episodes? This is a docuseries.
Yeah. This first season is a limited series of 5 hours, 5-hour-long programs, each profiling a different case and a different killer. The conceit of the whole show is to confront them directly and to bring the viewer into that process. Inside of high security prisons where, you know, thankfully most of them will spend the rest of their lives, and in some ways into the mindset and motivations behind their actions. We really want to sort of, you know, get inside the minds of these killers and try and look at these cases, you know, through that lens to better understand how and why these crimes occurred.
And you've got a range of different types, I mean, for lack of a better word, types of defendants who are there behind bars. Can you talk a little bit about who we might see?
Yeah, very much so. Brian Stephen Smith is a legitimate serial killer. We have a so-called honor killing coming up. This is a man in Texas who murdered his two teenage, Yasser Saeed murdered his 2 teenage daughters, ostensibly in an honor killing because of, you know, from his point of view, they were disgracing the family. But there is a shocking twist in that story. And we expose a whole other motivation and theory of the crime. There is a heat of passion, domestic homicide in the docket. There is a crime committed by a then 17-year-old that I think opens a window into the adolescent mind and what can go wrong, very wrong, in that period of life. We interview he's now 30 years old, and he's looking back at who he was at 17 and trying to reckon with how he could have done this. He killed both of his parents with a hammer. That's Tyler Hadley. You may remember that crime.
Right. This is a compelling look, David. I appreciate you taking the time to preview it here for us live in studio. And again, 8 p.m. on Sunday is when Interview with a Killer begins. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And before we go tonight, I do want you to look at your screen because we have to show you a missing child. This is Kamalani Jules Jardine. Kamalani is 16 years old. She was last seen on October 3rd in Wahiawa, Hawaii. If you have any information about where she is tonight, please call the Honolulu Police Department. Their number is 808-529-3111, or you can always call 1-800-THE-LOST or 911. Let's see if we can get Kamalani to a safe place tonight.